So you can probably see right now that I am in an empty room, but this room is going to transform into a studio. That's a lot of tail clap. And so the idea is that we're going to bring in these Auralex panels over here. We're going to start putting them up here on the corner to start deadening it a little bit. And it's definitely going to be a work in progress, and you're going to see that the sound of the room is going to change as we go. A big part of the reason you want to start with the corners is because the corners in a room is usually where you're going to start getting a lot of the frequencies kind of like connecting together and bouncing around. So generally what you want to do is start getting some corners deadened, and these corners over here will eventually be a pretty big issue, especially for lower frequencies, which is why you want to start integrating bass traps. You'll see a lot of studios generally tend to be more of rectangles. They tend to have more depth. This isn't the hugest room. It's 17 by 10 feet, so 10 feet wide, 17 in length. The reason you want to have more length when possible is because lower frequencies take a longer time to travel. So if you can manage to give yourself the luxury of giving yourself more depth when it comes to setting up your room, it's always recommended, because then you won't have so many lower frequencies building up and crashing into each other, which tends to be a problem with smaller rooms or rooms that are just a square and a little bit too mirrored, so to speak. So the goal here is going to be that we're going to have the monitors over here, and then where the camera is right now, this will be the back of the room. So we have these kind of like quarter moon versions here that fit perfectly into this little corner. So you even have to try to think about this kind of stuff. And these kind of fit perfectly there.
Nice, right?
Yeah.
Perfect.
And we're gonna try to do that all the way up to as close as we can get to the ceiling. And for these, you don't have to use anything crazy. We're gonna use a double-sided tape here. Stick it to the back of these and see how well it holds up. It should hold up pretty good for what the purpose is. Hopefully.
That's right.
But another alternative, you can actually see there's a bit of residue here from how it was previously hung up, which is more of a kind of adhesive glue sort of thing. But you know,
that did work, remember?
Yeah.
It worked for a long time.
It worked for a long time. So that's always an option, but right now I'm gonna try something a little bit simpler with some double-sided tape. Also, go ahead and point out that this stuff is a little pricey for what it is. If you don't know anything about it, it comes off as like, why am I paying a couple $100s for a bunch of foam? But it's worth noting that this foam that we are using isn't just your regular kind of like packing foam that you would use. This is specifically designed for audio, in the sense that, you know, that it's perforated to be able to allow some audio to travel through and diffuse, and that's why you see the couple of different like shapes. These kind of little triangle cutouts are meant to diffuse the sound, to break up any sort of uniformity they might have. So that's why you see this. And the company that does these is Auralex, and they are kind of a bit of the industry standard, and in my opinion, they are reasonably affordable and totally worth what you're going to spend, because this is what's going to make the biggest difference in a home studio. So basically, now all the Auralex panels are up. We got a few left that didn't get used there. But the idea here again was to just try to eliminate any sort of like accumulation of frequencies here in the corners. So we've put them up in these corners. That one, and then this one that didn't have as much space, we used some of the smaller ones. And we were able to use some of those half or the quarter moons up there as well too, for that problem we had earlier. And you're gonna see just in a second how big of a difference even this minimal setup makes. That's a lot of tail clap difference. So you can see how much more dead the room is. It's a lot more dry, and this is not even counting the fact that there's still no real furniture here in that chair, but eventually the more things you add, the more diffusion that happens in the room, the better it's gonna sound. But if you're gonna spend any money and you have a limited budget on your home studio,
Bass traps only.
Bass traps.
Right?
That's where your money should be going, because it's going to make the biggest difference in your room and it'll be usable. And that's it for part 1 of this series. Apologies for the shoddy camera work, and the audio wasn't great. You would think an audio focused channel would have better audio, but listen, I made this video because I had a friend that was building a studio out, and he invited me over. I said, why not? I'll bring my camera and maybe I can make a video out of this. I had zero plans, so this is what I was able to get out of it. And I figured somebody might be able to get something out of it because I thought it was entertaining. And when I was building my home studio way back in the day after college, a video like this I think would have been at least a little bit helpful. So anything to help put some more resources out there. Yeah, so bottom line, bass traps. If you're going to spend any money, get some bass traps. As you saw at the end there, they make a huge difference. And you don't got to understand the science around acoustics and everything, but bass traps, if you're going to put anything, that should be your go-to. Stick around. I'm going to upload a few more episodes to this series as the studio gets more built out. So if you do like the content, go ahead and subscribe. If you learned anything, like it. And if you have any questions, because I know I didn't do the best job explaining everything, go ahead and ask and I'll do my best to try to answer them. So thanks for watching and see you around.